Welcome to Self-Crafted Life, the space where you stop doubting, start trusting, and finally live as the real you. 10 psychological truths that will free you from the fear of other people's opinions. You're not as important as you think, and that's the best news you'll ever hear. We grow up with the feeling that someone is always watching us. From the teacher telling us to sit up straight, to the sideways glances in school, to the silent evaluations at work. Slowly, we start believing that every step we take, every word we speak, every choice we make is under a microscope. We imagine people storing every mistake, every awkward moment, every time we stood out in the wrong way. But here's the harsh and liberating truth. Most of the time, nobody is paying that much attention. People are too busy wrestling with their own insecurities, fears, and inner battles to track your every move. The spotlight you think is fixed on you is often just a beam you've turned on yourself. For some, this realization feels like a loss. If no one's watching, do I even matter? But from another angle, it's the key to your freedom. When you see that no one is really holding the ruler to measure your worth, you can stop performing for an imaginary audience and start living a life that's honest, raw, and unapologetically yours. Because in the end, the only person who is truly with you, always watching, always judging, is you. And when you learn to satisfy that audience yourself, you'll feel a lightness you didn't think was possible. This episode is about stepping out of that imaginary theater. In the next 10 parts, we'll explore the hidden truths that will help you break free from the fear of other people's opinions and discover what it's like to live for the only person who really matters. 1. The invisible spotlight. Why you feel watched when no one is looking. From the moment you walk into a room, you can almost feel it, eyes scanning you, minds quietly evaluating every detail, your shirt, your posture, the way you said hello. It's as if an invisible spotlight is following you around, ready to expose every flaw. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That spotlight, it's not theirs, it's yours. Your brain is hardwired for what psychologists call the spotlight effect, the tendency to believe people notice you far more than they actually do. It's a leftover survival instinct, born from ancient days, when belonging to the group meant survival. Standing out could mean danger. So your mind evolved to constantly monitor how others might be perceiving you. Fast forward to now, and that ancient wiring is still firing, except the tribe has been replaced by coworkers, strangers, or your social media followers. You walk into a cafe and assume the couple in the corner noticed your messy hair. You make a small mistake in a meeting and imagine your boss replaying it all day. In reality, they barely noticed. And if they did, they forgot about it within minutes because they're too busy under their own spotlight. Just like you, they're worried about their appearance, their mistakes, their performance. Here's the paradox. The moment you realize you're not being watched as much as you think, the spotlight begins to dim. And when it dims, you can move more freely. You speak without rehearsing every syllable. You take risks without obsessing over how they'll be received. No one is keeping score, and if they are, it's only because they haven't realized yet their scoreboard is imaginary too. 2. The echo of approval. How childhood shapes your fear of judgment. Long before you worried about Instagram likes or office gossip, you learned a more primitive lesson. Approval equals safety. As a child, your survival didn't depend on money, skills, or independence. It depended entirely on the acceptance of the people raising you. If your parents, teachers, or caregivers encouraged curiosity, accepted mistakes, and valued your thoughts, you learned that you could be yourself without fear. But if they only gave love when you performed, obeyed, or fit their mold, you learned something else. Who you are isn't enough. Maybe you were told to stop making a fuss when you were upset. Maybe your achievements were celebrated, but your failures met with silence or shame. Or maybe you learned that certain parts of you, your opinions, your emotions, your quirks, should stay hidden to avoid rejection. That's where the echo begins. It's the voice in your head that says, "Don't speak too loudly. Don't take up too much space. Don't be different." It's not your voice. It's an echo of the people who taught you that belonging comes with conditions. As an adult, you carry that echo everywhere. It whispers before you make a decision. It tightens your chest before you post online. It makes you rehearse a joke before saying it, afraid it might land wrong. But here's the thing, the conditions you learned in childhood were specific to that environment. You're not that powerless kid anymore. The people whose approval you once depended on, they don't hold the keys to your survival now. The first step to freedom is recognizing that the echo is not the truth. It's a recording, and you have the power to turn the volume down or erase it entirely. 3. The politeness prison. When being nice costs you your identity, where taught from childhood that politeness is a virtue, and it is, until it becomes a mask you never take off. Somewhere along the way, being nice stopped meaning kindness and started meaning self-erasure. You agree when you want to disagree. You say yes while your whole body screams no. You bite your tongue to avoid making it awkward. Each time, a small part of you goes quiet. Over the years, those silences add up until you've forgotten the sound of your own voice. This isn't just about social etiquette, it's survival. When you're afraid that showing your real thoughts might lead to rejection, you opt for the safer choice. Be agreeable, blend in, keep the peace. The problem, peace without truth isn't peace, it's a performance. Politeness as a shield might protect you from conflict, but it also blocks genuine connection. People like the agreeable version of you, but they don't know you. And deep down, you feel the loneliness of that gap. Reclaiming your identity doesn't mean becoming rude. It means allowing yourself to express small truths without apology, saying, "Actually, I don't enjoy that," or "I see it differently." And realizing the world doesn't end when you do. Your voice matters. Your boundaries matter. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself and for others is to stop pretending you agree when you don't. 4. Relationship shape-shifting. The danger of becoming who they want at the start of a relationship. Mirroring your partner can feel like magic. You love the same music, laugh at the same jokes, share the same dreams. But sometimes, that connection is just you shape-shifting into their ideal partner. If you've spent a lifetime craving approval, your partner's gaze feels intoxicating. You'll adopt their hobbies, echo their opinions, even adjust your personality, not from curiosity, but from fear. If I show my true self, they might leave. The danger? You end up building a relationship around someone else's blueprint. Over time, the walls start to close in. You feel trapped, not by them, but by the role you've scripted for yourself. Eventually, the mask slips. You either explode in frustration or fade into resentment. The relationship may crumble, not because it was bad, but because it was never fully real. The antidote is self-awareness. True intimacy isn't about perfect compatibility. It's about being fully seen and accepted. That can only happen if you stop editing yourself for approval. You don't need to be someone else's reflection. You're worthy of love as you are, even if that means some people walk away. 5. The hidden rage of self-abandonment. Every time you silence yourself for approval, you plant a seed of resentment. Over months and years, those seeds grow into a quiet, seething rage. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it shows up as comments, sudden withdrawal, or unexplained exhaustion. Other times it's more direct, snapping at loved ones, quitting jobs without warning, ghosting friends. The rage isn't just about others. It's aimed at yourself for betraying your own needs over and over, for saying yes when you wanted no, for making yourself small just to fit in. This is the paradox. You self-abandon to keep relationships, but in doing so, you poison them from the inside. The longer you suppress your truth, the more volatile it becomes when it finally surfaces. Healing starts with giving yourself permission to feel anger without shame. Anger isn't always destructive. It can be a signal, pointing you toward what's not working. When you learn to express it constructively, it becomes fuel for change, rather than fire that burns everything down. You don't have to let the rage define you, but you do need to listen to what it's been trying to tell you all along. Stop leaving yourself behind. 6. Why self-betrayal feels strangely safe. It's strange, isn't it? You'd think that constantly ignoring your own needs, dreams, and feelings would feel unbearable. But for many people, it feels safe, almost comforting. And here's why. Familiarity often masquerades as safety. If you grew up in an environment where your thoughts didn't matter, your emotions were dismissed, or your uniqueness was punished, then silencing yourself became a survival strategy. You learned to scan the room before speaking, to read other people's moods before checking in with your own. In those moments, compliance wasn't just polite, it was protection. Fast forward to adulthood, and that same pattern shows up in your relationships, career, and even in how you present yourself online. Environments where you have to play small don't feel like abuse. They feel normal, because they match the script you've been reading from since childhood. This is why leaving toxic relationships can feel more terrifying than staying in them. Why setting boundaries at work feels like breaking the law. Why being loved for who you really are can feel suspicious, even unsafe. Your nervous system has been trained to trust the cage more than the open field. But here's the truth. Safety and familiarity are not the same thing. One protects you, the other keeps you stuck. The discomfort you feel when you start speaking your truth isn't a sign you're wrong, it's a sign you're rewriting the script. And yes, it will feel awkward at first. You might doubt yourself, overthink, or want to retreat. But every time you choose authenticity over old habits, you're teaching your body that freedom can be its new comfort zone. The cage is familiar, but it's still a cage, and you don't have to live there anymore. 7. The hidden loneliness behind pleasing everyone on the outside. People pleasers seem like they have it all figured out, liked by everyone, always helpful, the kind of person others can count on. But behind that polished exterior often lives a deep and gnawing loneliness. It's not the kind of loneliness that comes from being physically alone. It's the loneliness of never being truly known. When you constantly adapt to fit others' expectations, you're essentially wearing a mask 24/7. And here's the painful part. If no one ever sees the real you, then even the warmest compliments feel hollow. They're not for you. They're for the role you play. This creates a strange paradox. The more you please others, the more disconnected you become. You say yes when you mean no. You agree when your heart is screaming for you to speak up. You offer endless support, but rarely ask for it in return. And when the lights go out at night, you're left wondering, does anyone actually know me? Would they still care if I stopped performing? That's why chronic people-pleasing can feel so exhausting. It's like being in a crowded room yet feeling invisible. You're surrounded by faces, but there's no genuine connection. Because real intimacy requires you to be real. And being real means risking rejection. The only way out is counterintuitive. You must dare to disappoint people. You have to let go of the fantasy that you can keep everyone happy. Start small. Say no to something that drains you. Express an opinion, even if it's unpopular. Ask for what you need, without over-explaining. At first, it will feel selfish, but over time, you'll see that it's actually the most generous thing you can do, because it gives others the chance to know and love the real you, not just the mask. 8. Mistaking control for love. For many, the blueprint for love is written in childhood, and sometimes, that blueprint is dangerously flawed. If you grew up in a home where love was conditional, you may have learned to associate control with care. Maybe affection came only after you obeyed, or approval was granted when you met impossible standards. Slowly you began to equate being loved with being managed. The danger is that this pattern follows you into adulthood. You might find yourself drawn to partners, bosses, or friends who dictate how you should act, dress, or think. Their attention may feel intense, even intoxicating, but underneath it is the same dynamic you knew as a child. Love with strings attached. What's worse, healthy love might feel boring. When no one is micromanaging you, you might feel unimportant. When a partner doesn't criticize or demand, you might think they don't care. That's not intuition, that's your nervous system craving chaos, because it feels familiar. But here's the truth. Love is not control. Real love gives space. It doesn't mold you into a version someone else prefers. It doesn't punish authenticity. It lets you breathe, explore, and grow. Breaking this pattern means rewriting your definition of love from scratch. It means noticing when you feel magnetically pulled toward controlling people and asking yourself whether that pull is attraction or just recognition of an old wound. Healthy love won't demand you shrink. It will hold you as you expand. And yes, it might feel uncomfortable at first, because comfort and familiarity aren't the same thing. But if you can sit with that discomfort, you'll discover something life-changing. Love without control doesn't just free you, it lets you finally be yourself. 9. Why disappearing feels safer than being seen. Being seen is one of the most vulnerable experiences we can have. When you let people see who you really are, your thoughts, quirks, flaws, and dreams, you give them the power to reject you. For many, that risk feels unbearable. So, they choose a different strategy: invisibility. Invisibility can take many forms. You might blend into groups, adopt other people's opinions, or downplay your talents so no one expects too much from you. You might avoid speaking up in meetings or sharing personal stories. Outwardly, you seem agreeable. Inwardly, you're starving for recognition. This instinct often starts in childhood. If your authenticity was met with criticism, punishment, or ridicule, hiding became the safer option. Over time, it became second nature. You stopped thinking, "I'll hide now," and started simply being hidden. The problem is that safety bought at the price of authenticity isn't really safety. It's a slow disappearance. You can't form deep connections if you're never fully present. You can't live a fulfilling life if you're always playing a background role in your own story. Reversing this pattern starts with small risks. Share a piece of your opinion in a group, even if you're unsure how it will land. Tell someone a personal truth without sugarcoating it. Wear something you love, even if it's not in style. The first few times, your heart will pound. You'll imagine the worst: judgment, rejection, embarrassment. But more often than not, nothing catastrophic happens. And little by little, you'll realize that being seen doesn't kill you. In fact, it might be the only way to truly feel alive. You don't have to disappear to stay safe. The real safety lies in owning your presence. 10. Reclaiming your true self. Finding your way back to yourself isn't about a single epiphany. It's about thousands of small choices that stack over time. If you've spent years, maybe decades, living for others' approval, the journey back will feel unfamiliar. But it will also feel like coming home. It starts with awareness. Pay attention to the moments when you're performing instead of living, when your yes is driven by fear, when your silence hides your truth, when your smile is a mask. These moments are clues pointing toward the gap between who you are and who you show the world. Next comes exploration. Ask yourself questions you've avoided for years. What do I love when no one's watching? What values actually matter to me? If I stripped away expectations, what would my life look like? You might not have answers right away. That's okay. After years of neglect, your authentic self may be shy. Give it time. Then comes courage. The courage to act on those answers, even when they disrupt your old life. This might mean ending relationships, changing careers, or simply saying no more often. It will be uncomfortable. You will lose things, people, roles, versions of yourself. but everything you lose was never truly yours to begin with. Finally, remember that reclaiming yourself is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. When you live aligned with your truth, external judgment loses its power. Approval becomes optional. And for the first time, you can look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. Because the greatest victory isn't being liked by everyone. It's being proud of the life you've chosen, a life that is entirely, unapologetically yours. Final word. The courage to live without an audience in a world obsessed with likes, follows, and constant validation. The idea that no one is really watching you can feel unsettling. For years, you may have lived as if every move was under a spotlight, tailoring your words, your clothes, even your dreams, to please an invisible audience. And yet, the truth is liberating. Most people are too busy worrying about their own image to spend much time judging yours. That realization strips away the excuses. You can no longer hide behind what will they think, because now you know. They're not thinking about you nearly as much as you imagined. What's left is the raw, unfiltered truth. Your life is yours to shape. Without a script, without applause, without permission. This is where freedom begins. Not the shallow freedom of doing whatever you want, but the deeper freedom of owning your choices, your values, your mistakes, and your victories. It's the freedom that comes from no longer needing to be liked to feel alive. Yes, there will be losses. You might lose relationships built on performance. You might lose the comfort of predictability. But what you gain, authenticity, peace, and self-respect, is far greater. You begin to attract people who value you for who you truly are, not the version you curated for approval. So, let the imagined audience fade. Step off the stage you never agreed to be on. Look yourself in the eye and decide, from this day forward, to live without a mask. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. And in a world full of actors, the courage to live unscripted might be the most revolutionary thing you ever do. Remember, the world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be real. Keep showing up as you.